morning, Jimmy here, and we are out on the range today to test the Berger VLD bullet. This is following the reloading videos that I just created, so this is my first day shooting the VLD. I'm going to be testing the progression. You can see behind me I'm all set up. I have my chronograph and my notebook to record my data. We have about a 29 degree air temp right now. I think it's about 11:10, 11:15 in the morning. Could be a little bit warmer, but this is a pretty ideal temperature. It's a scenario I might run into hunting, so I like to shoot and test in the temperature that I'm developing the load for. It's a little bit windier. You might pick that up on the microphone. A little bit windier than what I anticipated, but I do have a berm here, and the wind is coming from the west, so I don't believe it's going to affect the trajectory of my test load here, but we'll just have to see if that becomes an issue. But the velocities are incredibly low, so I did use the starting load, so we may have to work up from there. But again, the first group I'll walk down range and set the camera up there, but pretty disappointing on the first group. But again, we have a lot of progression to go through yet. If anyone wonders, I do have an in-ear hearing protection here, so I'm not just out shooting without hearing protection. And another thing I wanted to mention is I am using the lead sled, and that just takes variables out of this. I can shoot this thing all day with the lead sled, and it holds it locked in. So for reloads, I like to use the lead sled just to take me as the equation out of things. So I'll continue shooting here and see how it performs. Alright, I am just back from the shooting range, going over some of the results from the shooting session. And the first thing I did was to pull all of the data off of the chronograph and record all of the results there. And basically what I like to note in my logbook or my shooting book here is matching up all of the different parameters that we made when we loaded the data. I like to record the results through the chronograph against those so I can reference that in the future. So we had 4 different seeding depths, 24 thousandths, 50 thousandths, 90 thousandths, and 130 thousandths off the lands. And I recorded the high and low feet per second, the average, and then the standard deviation. And the standard deviation, to me, is one of the more important values, other than just kind of knowing where the velocity is coming in at, because that, starts telling me kind of showing a picture of, I guess, how consistent that load is. So for instance, the first group that I shot here in the upper left had the widest or greatest standard deviation at 67 feet per second. It was also my worst group. Now I had already shot the rifle some fouling shots, 4 fouling shots through that. So I believe the barrel would have been warmed up enough. It's potential that it maybe was not fouled up enough and that those results were there, but it did seem that groups were getting better the more off the lands or the further in the seating depth was, with 90 thousandths off the lands being my best group of the day. So that's what I'm just kind of doing right now. I was going through measuring the groups. I just go to the outside 2 widest and then subtract the diameter of the bullet, in this case 308, to give me my group size. And I recorded kind of my worst. I went through and measured all of these, and 90 thousandths off the lands was my tightest group. I had kind of an interesting thing happen here on number 3, and you probably won't be able to pick this up on the video, but at the shooting range, the second shot I could not see on paper even when I walked up to the target, and I actually had to go back on the video and take a look at this and kind of slow it down. And I did confirm, I suspected, but I confirmed watching the video, I did have the second shot basically go through the exact same hole as the first shot here. You can actually see that one's a little bit darker when I push it against the table, as opposed to this third shot down here. In the video shooting, you can see, you maybe see that if you have it on 1080p on the high def, but you definitely see a little tag on this move slightly on the second shot. So I know that it wouldn't have thrown the shot that much based on these other groups, but kind of interesting when you have a bullet that goes through the same hole like that. So this was my number 3 groups right here, the 90 thousandths off the lands. This group was 1.017, and this one was just a little over half MOA, or 60 thousandths. Or 600 thousandths rather, on this group down here. So this is kind of the winner. I'm not super thrilled with the groups right now. I can shoot tighter groups with an existing load I have, but we're really slow on the velocity. I think I might have mentioned that out at the range on the video. We're just over 2,200 feet per second, with 2298 being the highest velocity of the day, with this 48.5 grains of IMR 4350. So I'll go back and start loading now a whole bunch at 90 thousandths off the lands, and I'll start working up from that starting load and work towards the maximum and see what performs best. Usually just a little bit off of maximum powder or maximum charge is where my rifle likes to perform, but I'll go back and confirm that by loading up another progression. Not sure if I'll do another video. I probably won't do as in-depth of a process as this, but I will bring the results on either my blog or a video as to where I end up with that. I really want this VLD bullet to be shooting well, and I'm pretty confident I can make that happen. Again, I'm a little bit over half MOA right here, and that's without much fine-tuning at this point. I can play with that seating depth a little bit. Maybe I can go a little bit less or a little bit more and get a velocity that's a little bit more in line with where it should be for this 185 grain bullet, and we'll get this thing shooting well. At least I hope so, but I'm fairly confident that we can. And maybe you're not, too upset about that either, close to half MOA at 100 yards, but I just know my shooting skills off the bench and that rifle are capable of them better than this, so we'll dial that in and get that improved.